Hi, this is Joe Bolen, and welcome to Learning About VisualBasic.net. Well, we've been working on a text editor project in the past few videos, and now we're ready to put in the last parts of our code into our text editor to make it ready for our deployment. But before we get started, let's take a look at the documentation for our text editor project. Our main documentation for the text editor project, as well as other projects that I've created, is at pastebin.com/u/jboh. There you'll find the source code of the videos that I've been creating, and you can use it to study more detail about the concepts that are introduced in the video. And you can also download those source code information to help modify your own projects. In addition, the main form for the text editor is out at Imager, where you can see that image of the main form and use it to help design maybe your own text editor. And then you can also go to youtube.com at Bolen Presents, and there you'll see not only this video but other videos that'll help you learn more about Visual Basic and how to code. Well, let's get into our text editor project. I have Visual Studio up with the Windows Designer form showing with our text editor form. And we're going to set this up tonight so that we can make certain that our text editor area on the form shows up correctly, depending upon whatever name we might choose. And also we want to deal with command line argument passing into the program. Well, let's go to our code. And I'm going to enlarge the code here so you can see it. And I'm at the area where we're looking at the class level variables that were declared for our project. And right now we have the application title coming in from the My Application Info title area. That's the part of the project where we set up that in the main part of our settings. And if I go to text editor, click on the properties button that looks like a wrench, you'll see that I come in there, and then there is a assembly information button, and that is where it's picking up that information that I have here. We're going to make it so that if you fail to fill out this information in the assembly information, that it will pick up a value based off the object that you compile it to. So let's see how we do that. Let's come back to our code. What I'm going to do is change this now from this particular default to string empty. And that way we're going to then do it in code to initialize the application title. And where we're going to do that is in the main form load event. We're going to add into here, as the program first starts out, it will get information to make certain that that value is set. So I'm going to pull in some code that I have already that we can save a little time in typing, and we'll bring that code in for us to see how we get the application title in place. So what we're doing here is examining for the application title info. If it's not empty, then I'm going to use that title for my application title. Otherwise, I'm going to go out to the system IO path and get the file name without the extension of the assembly name. So this way I can get all the information I need about the particular one that I'm working with. So I'll get my application title initialized, and then I'm going to set the caption area of the form to the title of my application. This will take care of this not only in this program but other programs that I might be writing, so that I always have a title in my title area. The next thing we're going to deal with is bringing in command line arguments. This is where we have a program, in this case the text editor, and what we're going to do is pass into it a file name. And if it does have a file name, then we're going to launch that file in our code. So I'm going to once again do a cut and paste of the code I've already created and put it in place for us to use. Okay, copy, and I'm going to come over here and paste it in place. And here I want you to understand what I've just done. First of all, there are two ways we might be running this program. We might be running it as an Xcopy deployment, in which case I've just taken the code from my bin folder and copied it with Xcopy to a location on another machine or to this machine in a different location. And in that case, what I'll be doing is running that as a normal traditional type of way of passing in arguments into the program. But if I'm running it as a ClickOnce deployment, it's a little bit different. And so I need to code for those changes. And here's where I come in and I ask in the program, am I a ClickOnce type of deployment? And this is the code that looks for that. And then I'm going to look to see if I have arguments that have been passed in to this program. And as I come down, I have a count greater than 0. Then I'm going to take the arguments activation data first item that is there, which will be the file name passed in, and make it the working path file. Then I'm going to check to see if that file does exist, and if so, I'm going to go do my get files routine in my code that I already have coded. Now, if it's not a ClickOnce event, I'll use the traditional method, and here's where I bring in my application command line args and look at the count to see if it's greater than 0. If so, I'm going to get the first argument that I pass in and make it my working path file. Once again, I'll check to make certain the file exists, and then I'll get the file. So these are basically doing the same thing in each parts of the if statement. One is for ClickOnce, the other is for the traditional perhaps Xcopy deployment of the program on that. So we'll be able to pull in the file and run it. So with this in place, we basically have now come to the end of our coding for this. Let me compile it and let's test out whether we can pass in a file name and will it launch. Well, let's compile it. And first of all, it runs. We'll make certain everything still runs okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my documents. I have a series of quotes out there. So I'm going to go to the quotes folder, and I'm going to bring in Henry David Thoreau. And here we have Henry David Thoreau's statement that he wrote that I think is a quite beautiful statement, and it came in fine. And now let's test to see if we can bring this in as a command line. Okay, so I'm going to close this out, and what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go to the show all files button on my Solution Explorer. And as I go there, you'll see that I have a bin location. And since we just compiled it as a debug, I'm going to go to the debug folder. And what I'm going to do is right click on it and open a command line prompt. So I'm at that location. And you'll see, I'll do a quick directory. You'll see the files that we have. And one of them is the text editor.exe. So if I just do text editor, that'll fire up my text editor fine. So we can fire it up directly from the command line. But now let's see if we can do it by passing in a parameter and having a file come in place. So this time I'm going to do it again. Come back over here. I'm going to hit the up arrow to reproduce it. And I'm going to quickly grab some code to point to the same file that we just had. So I'm going to copy it, come over here to my command line, and I'm going to paste it in place. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm issuing the command for the program, text editor.exe, And in quotes, because I have spaces in my file name, I've got the whole path that goes to that location and I'm passing it in. Let's see if it works. I'll hit enter. And there it came up fine and dandy for us. So I can set the format. In this case, I'll set it for, let's go with Tacoma. And let's go with a 14 point. I'll try bold. We'll go navy. And apply it. And there it is. Bold maybe is a little strong, so we'll change that. And that looks pretty good. And we'll say OK. So we've been able to pull it in from a command line, as well as when I do a file save as, my path is also changed in my program to the location where it needs to go. It knows it needs to go to the quotes folder to save that this is a different file name or as the same file name on that. So we've taken care of that in our code already in the area where we're getting our file. So we've been able to pass that in, so we can compile this now as a release and do it as an X copy, and then we could use a easy shortcut method to create a way to pass in the information. But we're going to look at doing it with a ClickOnce method of deployment. So I'd like to invite you to continue on watching the last video of the series. I think will be next time, where we're going to actually do the deployment of our text editor, and hopefully you'll enjoy learning about how to create the text editor and learning all the different pieces and parts that go into making a program. While the program itself is somewhat simple, it's a little bit more advanced than just plain Notepad because we've added some extra features. We've also had the opportunity to learn about the code involved to make the program. We learned the different pieces and parts that we can use for other applications as well. For example, the save file, the open file dialog, how to use the format dialog, how to create an about box if we want for our program, how to do the printing in our program. Those are the things we've learned through this particular program application that we've been working on, and we can use it for other things that we might develop later on in our future careers as learning about VisualBasic.net. So I hope you've enjoyed this. We'll get ready for our deployment video coming up next. So take care and keep your hands dirty by getting into the code, and go out to pastebin.com/use/JBOH and take a look at the code about the passing of the argument with the command line, and also the other codes that are out there related to this project and others, so that you can become a better programmer and learn about VisualBasic.net. So take care and see you next time.